Does this feeling sound familiar? You're in a dark room with people around you that you probably don't really know very well. You know that nearby there's probably some flammable liquids, and the person in charge of that room is somebody that you've probably never seen before. If this sounds familiar and you get it in an airplane, you probably have aviophobia. Aviophobia is also known as the fear of flying. Now, aviophobia is just like any other kind of fear, but it sprouts from a couple different kinds of fears, such as the fear of enclosed spaces, the fear of heights, the fear of crowds, the feeling of lack of control, and even terrorism is a newfound one. It's really just a form of anxiety that can rise up as you're flying, and it really doesn't help when all you see on the news is, oh, here's a new plane crash. Now here are a couple facts that might make you feel a little bit more comfortable. A plane crash happens about every 1.2 million plane flights, and that your chances of dying are 1 in 11 million. To put it in perspective, car crashes and deaths in car crashes happen in about 1 in every 5,000 car crashes, which makes flying 2,200 times safer than driving. Now, there are about 10,000 planes in the air at every given time, and for passenger scheduled flights per day, there are about 100,000. That's just passenger flights, which makes airplane flying one of the most safest modes of transportation except for elevators and escalators. Now, in fact, you probably have a bigger chance of choking on your food in the airplane than you do dying because of the crashing of the airplane. You probably have a bigger chance of getting bit by a snake, getting struck by lightning, dying of scalding hot water, falling out of your bed, dying walking onto the airplane, or even dying by a hippo than you do by crashing in an airplane. In fact, you probably have a bigger chance dying of a heart attack looking at this adorable cat than you do of dying in an airplane crash. But yet, you're not alone. About 1/4 of every person has some sort of anxiety related with flying. 1/6 in everybody has roughly a fear of flying, and 1/10 have an immense scare when it comes to flying. In fact, about 35% of flight crew, that includes pilots, are actually scared of flying or scared of heights. So how do they come over this? And it's all knowledge-based. Knowledge is key. They know that airplanes are the happiest when they're in the air. They also know a few things about flying. They know that the airplane has 4 fundamental forces on it. Thrust, which moves it forward, lift moves it up, weight is always there, we're on the ground, and drag keeps it from going infinitely fast. Lift is what's important here. You can fly an airplane with little as 2 forces, lift and weight. That's what gliders do. And lift is such a basic principle in physics that it's probably not going to fail you anytime soon. For it to fail, you'd have to have no more gas, and that means we wouldn't be able to breathe, so I'd be more worried about that if I were you. Now, some people are worried about the engines failing. Now, you look at the design here, and you have the jet turbine engine next to a car piston engine. Now, that's just one piston versus one jet turbine engine. The jet turbine engine seems a lot simpler, and there are multiple pistons in just one car engine, so that's just an immense difference in complexity of the design. Jet engines are probably a lot simpler and easier to maintain as well. Now, some people are worried about the door flying out when you're in the air. Now, the reality is when you're at 30,000 feet flying, there's about 22,000 pounds on that door. No man is strong enough to open that door. Now, some people wonder, why do the wings flex? Now, that's part of the design of the airplane. Without the flexing, it could possibly break. Now, some people are worried about the parts moving on the wing. You look at this image here and you see different things moving, and that's very important because you need the plane to fly and steer itself, so that has to be there. Now, some people are worried when you turn, that you're turning like this and you're looking at the ground. Don't worry, you're about turning 30 degrees. It's nothing scary at all. You're not allowed to turn more than that. 73% of people are worried that the airplane might fail mechanically, and every hour of flight has roughly 11 hours of inspections and maintenance. So there's definitely a lot of thorough checking when it comes to flights. Now, turbulence is a big issue. People are always worried about it, but when you think of it, it's really just a bump in the road. Now, next time you go flying, just realize that there's nothing to fear but fear itself.